Hi everyone, this is Mitra, product marketing from SuperOps. I'm here to host today's webinar, Mastering Patch Management. This is the first in our workshop series, which our support and success team are going to lead through to help you understand how you can take the full potential of a module and understand it deeply and use it to your business. So today we have Rakesh and Arvind joining us. They are our customer support and success managers here to help you out understand the patch management module in SuperOps. I'll walk you through the agenda of today's webinar. So we'll have the first overview of the patch management module and then move into the patch configurations in SuperOps. Here you'll learn how everything works in SuperOps and how you can understand the module to its potential. And we'll end the webinar with a troubleshooting guide and the live Q&A session so that you guys can ask any questions you have throughout the webinar as well. And in the live Q&A, our team will be here to answer it live for you. So over to you, Rakesh.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mitra. You can hear me okay, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you, folks, for joining. So this session is not going to be a usual webinar session. This is going to be more of a classroom training for you. So I'll be walking you through the patch management in general, and I'll also be showing you the ways on how the patch management can be done. And once I'm done with the general overview of patch management, Arvind will pitch in for patch configuration in SuperOps. So that's how we are going to have this structured. You can move to the next slide, Mitra. All right, so you all are techies, so you must be knowing what a patching means. So all the updates that are being released by different OSs. So you get the patches from Windows and Mac and Linux. And a disclaimer right now, we also recently introduced Linux patching, which I believe was released a month ago. I'm sure you guys would have just closed that banner, so whichever pops up on the screen whenever you log into the SuperOps account. So all the updates that are being released are called as patches. So for you to check the stability of the asset or for you to maintain and secure the asset, patches are released by different OSs. And for each and every patch, you will have patch KBs. If you look at the Microsoft catalog, for each and every patch, you will find patch KB, which will also have patch keys. And for you to do the patching, there are multiple ways to do it. And the most common ways are Windows Update. And if you look at the flow, so this is how it works in SuperOps. So what SuperOps does is, we will be getting the patches from Windows API. And once the patches are released from in the Windows API, the SuperOps server fetches the patches, and the scanning is done in SuperOps, where all those patches will be fetched on the respective asset, and we'll be displaying those patches on the assets itself. So if you like to go ahead and approve it, or if you want to go ahead and reject it, you can control all that in the SuperOps RMM itself. And if you wanted to automate the entire process, you can control that in the RMM, and Arvind will be going over that particular configuration part, right? Over to the next slide, Mitra. Yeah, so this is what I explained on the previous slide. Arvind, you can take it over now.
And thank you so much for your patience. Now that we are here, let me quickly share my screen and walk you through how it is that we're going to go about inside of SuperOps, right? You share my screen. All right, let me know when my screen's visible. Are you able to see my screen? Rakesh, Mitra, can you confirm?
Yes, we can see your screen, Arvind.
Awesome, perfect. So yeah, so talking about things with respect to patching in SuperOps, right? So we start off from the the basic manual side of things, where you can scan for patches inside of an asset on a reactive manner, and then have the patches approved and deployed onto the asset in itself. This is one way of doing it. However, if you're wanting to automate the process in itself and do it for a select group of assets, or let's say in terms of a client level or at a site level, or in terms of a group of assets, we have the policy framework that we can leverage to do that. Right now, we have two types of policy frameworks. You have the hierarchical that you see on the top, and you have the advanced framework, right? Hierarchical, as the name suggests, you have one big global policy which can be broken down into three types. Whether you want to like override it at a client level, you want to override it at a site level, or at an asset level, you should be able to do that. So there will be one global policy, and you can make relevant changes based on the three groups that I suggested right now. And you have something called as an advanced policy. Advanced policy is something that we came up recently, like 6 to 8 months prior to this. The whole reason being we wanted to come up or probably understand and get to this concept of one device, one policy set, because if a device is part of multiple groups, to err is human. Sometimes the wrong policy set might be applied, and a wrong set of scripts can be run. They can be passed at the wrong time, and the wrong set of patches can also be deployed on the given asset. So we wanted to make sure that nothing of that sort happens. So that's why we came up with what we call as the advanced policy framework right here. So over here, you have something called as device category, which is what we call as a device where you can manage a group of devices. This can either be like a default, which is called a Windows machine, or you can create custom categories, which can encompass a group of assets that you can leverage to have your policy sets enabled. So when you come to policy set, right, the setup is similar to that of hierarchical, but in this case, you have a parent-child approach where it's going to have inheritance from the parent. So your parent, which is the global policy, is going to be having a clone, and you can have a clone of this as well. So the inheritance is going to happen. The same setup in the global policy or in the predecessor is going to be retained in the child or the successor. So that's how this is going to be. So apart from that, you get into either one of these policies, right? So when you're talking about patch management, you go inside one of these policies. Let's take Windows Workstation policy as an example. So you go in and you get inside patch management over here. It starts off, or it's broadly classified into three major steps, right? You have your scanning, you have your approval matrix, then you have your deployment, and you have the rebooting. So basically, you can set up when the agent has to scan for patches, right? So since you're looking at a hierarchical setup over here, like I mentioned, you'll have these three overrides which you want to do from the global, policies. Starting off with, the client level, site level, and the asset level right here on the top right corner of your screen. So the first thing that you see when you look into patch management in itself is to initiate the scanning. And you have like a specific schedule that you can set up where the SuperOps agent can scan in a periodic fashion, right? You can scan for every day or every week based on whichever time you deem fit, so that you can scan for all the available patches that is there for that particular asset. Once the scanning is done, it moves into the approval matrix or the approval conversation where it's going to seek for your initiation. So you have four kind of options here, right? So you have your automatically approve, which is approve right here. You're going to manually approve or reject, or you can automatically reject knowing that this patch is not going to work for this particular asset or this group of assets, or you can defer the approval by a couple of days, right? So you have different types of, the patch updates right here. For example, the critical updates, the definition updates, or like feature packs for that matter. You can select which one's working well for you and have the approval matrix set up accordingly. Having worked with a lot of you, like personally being the customer success manager in US for a long time, so I believe after speaking with a lot of clients like you that you tend to test their patches or a quick test asset and then deploy it to them. That's also something that works. Or if you want to do or select the patches select the type of patches that you want to manually approve as well, we have the option to do it in just a click of a button right here, right? Once the approval matrix is confirmed, then you go ahead and you also set up the defer schedule. For example, if you choose either to defer the patches for either of these categories right here, you can push the deployment by the set number of days right here. Over here, it just says, hey, if you want to do it by weeks or days, you will be able to set it up right here. And like Rakesh said, you can also go to the Microsoft catalog and see which are the patches that you want to override or instantly accept, which is not accepted, or something that's out of your scope. You can either add it up as a patch KB or as a patch key. I would suggest you to go ahead with the patch key because all the patch keys are unique, but rather the KB sometimes more than one patch can be associated with the same KB, right? You can either choose to automatically approve the patch or reject the patch accordingly based on how you deem it fit. Once the initiation is done, once it goes through the approval matrix, then you got to go ahead and configure the deployment of it. We have a deployment schedule which you can configure, and you can choose which are the types of policies that you have to schedule at what times, right? You can't have everything going at one single go, and that might disrupt the flow for the client. Sometimes it's good to have them done at weekends, and sometimes you can have the critical patches being deployed every week and the other ones being deployed bi-weekly or even during a fortnight, right? So that can be done as well. So apart from that, you have your patch configuration where you can enable wake on LAN. Let's say if a customer is connected to the local area network, and you can just simply jog it up by using just simply toggling this on and wake the asset up for the deployment of the patches. And you also have one important setting right here that talks about auto update preferences. Either you can choose to do nothing, where the asset commands in itself is taken care of by the user, where SuperOps is not going to get involved. Hey, it's going to say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to interfere with this. Or you can say disable, where SuperOps is going to take complete control of that patching, and that's what you want when you're going to do it via SuperOps, right? Then comes, so in order to complete the deployment and the installation of the patches, you got to set up, configure the reboot options as well. So you have a couple of options over here. You can say, hey, you know what, you're going to reboot immediately, and you can also allow the user to give them like a prompt saying, hey, you know what, you're going to reboot it immediately, just save the work right away so that it's not getting hampered. You can also force the reboot immediately without even telling them, saying, hey, you know what, I am not going to wait for you. We're just going to reboot it right now, and repeatedly ask for permission. And once you choose that, it's going to ask you saying, how many times would I have to pop up the message before going on to the reboot? So that you can configure based on how you deem it fit. And if the user is logged out, what are the user options that you can do? You can either choose to do nothing and let the user take control of it, or you can force the reboot immediately. That's something you can do as well, right? So let's say you're working with a client where he or she is going to give new assets to new team members that they're joining the team. You can also get the assets up to speed and running at an optimum condition by what we call as asset onboarding, where you can go inside and deploy the patches immediately or deploy it after a specific amount of time. Same goes for the set of softwares that you want to input in that particular device. And it goes for the same for the scripts as well, right? You can run the scripts, or if you have like a set of scripts to get that machine up to speed, you can also run that and probably either do it immediately, or you can deploy it after a couple of hours as well. And in case of any patches failing, we also have an option to set up alerts right here for the patches, where you're going to say, hey, if a patch is failed, just throw me an alert as a policy. And if it's a policy rollback as well, you should be able to see, hey, you know what, this patch has been rolled back. And you can also group it to the alert saying patch rollback. So you're not going to see multiple alerts being thrown, but rather group it as a one single category saying which is a patch rollback. So this is something that's been pretty recently developed enhancement as well. So that's that. And apart from that, we also have a new feature. There is when you look at patches, right? We have come up with something called as a classic view and a normal view, along with pairing with our AI feature. So let's say, you know what, I'm going to learn more about this patch. This is something that has been scanned and it's yet to be pushed to the assets. Once you click on this, you would be able to see what is the stability of this particular patch. We are working with a couple of forums over here, which is going to give us this data, and we're just going to compile it and show it to you, saying, hey, this patch is worth pushing into your client's assets and making sure that nothing bad is going to happen about it. And it's going to also tell you after searching the web, saying, hey, you know what, these are the known issues that has come up with the patches. And also talk about the summary being pulled in from the catalog and other forums, and also what's the online sentiment about this patch, saying, hey, you know what, a couple of users have tried this and this patch has not been working great for them. It's been or doing wonders for them. So either of that, you'd be seeing it right here for the patches. After looking at all these, tabs and, widgets right here, you can make a well-informed decision in terms of whether to approve the patch, reject the patch, or, put it aside for a bit, right? This is with respect to the patch summary and the patch sentiment, and we also have what are the historic patches given to a particular asset that is also shown over here. So the same goes for the other two OSs as well, for Linux as well as in Mac. So this is like the list view that you're going to see over here. We also have something called as the classic view, where you're going to see, let's say if you take a patch, it's going to clearly tell you saying, hey, this is like something that's like similar to that of an Outlook kind of a setup, where you're going to see the email over here and you're going to see the compose box, and it's going from left to right fashion, right? So we have incorporated the same kind of a view over here, where it's going to say when you talk about or when you click on a specific patch, all the details are going to be shown up in one single pane of glass rather than it popping up right on your face. So yeah, you're going to see everything over here, and also what are the actions that are being done, whether it's approved, whether it's pending, whether it's rejected, or whether it's deferred. So you're going to see all that. So that's from my end, guys. So I'm taking a look at the questions over here. Meanwhile, I think Rakesh, I think it's over to you now. So we could just run through what you were planning for the webinar.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Jonathan. All right, guys, just give me a second. Let me share my screen. So this is going to be more of troubleshooting part on what needs to be done if the patch scan fails, and what needs to be done if the patch installation fails, or if the patch installation doesn't even work. So there are we have a bunch of questions, or I would say some frequently asked questions from our customers. We have handpicked a few questions, and we have a troubleshooting guide, which you can also use whenever you face this issue, right? So let me quickly share my screen. Arvind, can you see my screen? Is that visible?
Yes, Rakesh, it's visible.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
We are good.
All right, thanks, guys. All right, the first part is if, as I explained earlier, if WSUS is configured on the asset, or if there is any GPO policies that is tied to an asset, then SuperOps will not be able to perform the patch scan. So basically, the patch scan would fail. And we do have a few commands that you can run in order to check whether WSUS or some other issues are there with the asset, right? So once the session is done, we will also be sharing those commands with you guys. And we will also be posting those commands in the support article, which you can use in the future to identify if there is an actual issue with the asset environment, or if it's an issue with the SuperOps in itself, right? So the first part is WSUS, and the second part is permission issues. So if you had configured any policy for the asset, and if the user doesn't have enough permissions to perform the patches, then it will be a failure. They will not be able to perform the patch scan. And the third one is if, let me also share the, all right, so these are the commands. Before that, so let me share the third part, which is Windows API not being able to pull patches. So there is only one command that you will have to use for fetching these informations, right? So all four will be covered under one command. So if SuperOps, if the command runs on the asset, and if you see the patches listed after running the command, then it means SuperOps should also fetch those patches within the SuperOps account under the respective asset. If you are able to see the patches after running the command, but it is not visible in the SuperOps, then it's an issue with the SuperOps account itself, right? So you can report it to the support team, and we will get back to you on that, right? And if there are any corrupted patches, so the fourth example is, let's assume there is a patch that was released by Microsoft, and it was also installed on the asset, and the following patches are not being installed on the asset. So even for that reason, if you run this particular command that we will share, so these are the two commands that you can run on the asset, which will show you all the left part will show you all the installed patches, and the right part will show you all the patches that are yet to be installed. So how you can make the comparison is, first, check all the installed assets, run the command, and compare it with the SuperOps asset profile. So if it matches, then well and good, it should work. And on the right side, which says to be installed, so whatever assets that you have new or in the new or missing status, if you run this command, all those patches should be listed under the to be installed command. So if these two matches, then your system is good to go. You should be able to see the patches in SuperOps as well as the command. So these are the two commands that you can use to see any issues with the patch scans, right? So once the session is done, we will share this command with you. And the prerequisites. All right. So what happens is whenever you set up the installation schedule, so the installation schedule is the most important part. So if you have approved the patches in the approval configurations, and if that particular patch category and the severity is not included in the installation schedule, then the installation will not happen. So you'll have to be very mindful about the installation schedule configuration once you're done with the approval configurations, right? And the second one is there needs to be a 30 to 45 minute time window before you approve the patch and the installation. So if it's neck to neck, for example, you approve the patch at 11:30 and you have the installation at 11:35, just for example, you wouldn't do it that way. If you have it like that, then the patch installation will not happen on that schedule. It will be deferred to the next schedule. And the third part is if the patches are not approved. So first thing that you got to do is if you feel a particular patch is not installed, you will check the approval configuration. That's the first part. So after you check the approval configuration, if you feel everything is right, you will go to the installation schedule. So you will check the installation schedule. If these two matches and if it misses that installation schedule, then you will report it to us. We will check the logs and we will get back to you on what needs to be done in order to push the installation. And the other part is if you feel that you have missed on the installation schedule or you have missed adding a particular severity or category in the installation schedule, you can manually go ahead and approve and install any patches anytime from the patches window, right? So here are few of the reboot troubleshooting guides. So the first one is most of the client users report that the reboot pop-up does not show up. So what we can do is we do have the log file. Whenever you go into the asset profile in SuperOps, you go to File Explorer and you have this path, which is program files, and you will find the SuperOps RMM folder. It's not the SuperOps RMM folder. If you had done the agent rebranding, you will be able to see that rebranded name. That would be the folder, and you will find SuperOps log. So there is something called as reboot successful. And if you see reboot successful and multiple repetitions or multiple occurrences of this particular reboot successful, then it means the pop-up would have appeared on the client user's assets and they would have clicked on that do it later, or they would have clicked on the close button and they would report it to you that this did not appear at all. That's the first case. And the second one is, so reboot banner keeps popping up with one particular path. So there is one registry key which you can check whether the asset was rebooted completely or if it was just a partial reboot or something. So it was just a sleep or it was just a lock or something. So whenever a patch is installed and if a patch requires a reboot, what Windows does is they'll be keying in a registry path, and that registry path, if it is present on the asset, then the asset is not rebooted completely. So you'll have to request the client user to reboot the asset or shut down the asset and restart the asset again, right? And the third part is, so when you're configuring the reboot message, right, you aren't supposed to use the special characters, for example, like double quotes, click here now, or anything. So if you use double quotes, Windows is going to reject that particular reboot message. So even after doing it hundreds of times, it's not going to work. So it will still keep asking you for reboot. So please ensure you do not include any special characters whenever a reboot message is configured.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Hope this webinar was super helpful. Thank you.